This is What the Hack 15's check-in for and our project's halftime update, where we will outline our progress this week, as well as an overview of what we've done so far, the challenges we've faced, and what is in store for the rest of the project. While training for CPR is currently provided through health organizations such as the Red Cross, CPR training to the general public is still fairly inaccessible or impractical. Our goal is to create an application that utilizes smartphone accelerometer data to train users on proper CPR administration in an at-home setting. The application will monitor for the proper rate and depth of chest compressions by meeting a designated target, such as those set forth by the American Heart Association guidelines. Furthermore, the goal is to have the application notify the user if they are compressing too fast, too slow, too deep, or too shallow in regards to our targets via an intuitive UI. To provide these functionalities in an in-home setting, we are looking into what household items can simulate the feel of chest compression, such as firm seat cushions or mattresses. This week, we listed appropriate locations for gathering accelerometer data and obtained guideline recommendations for appropriate compression depth and rate. Overall, we aim to enable a more ubiquitous CPR training via ubiquitous computing.
Our work this week included wrapping up Part 2, data accumulation phase of the project, where we finished data collection and evaluation of the new segmentation method. We entered Part 3, app creation phase of the project, in which we created a brainstorming and prototype development plan. We also began to implement this plan. As a review of our work completed in previous weeks, we have finished Part 1, Explore Challenges phase of the project, where we determined household locations and services to test and gather accelerometer data. We identified appropriate methodologies for data gathering, processing, filtering, segmentation, and extraction. We designed and created a 3D printed test device to perform compressions by depth. We began work on Part 2, data accumulation phase of the project that included procured initial test data, including data on different rates and different depths, devised methods for tracking compression count and rate, and have tested with preliminary test data for accuracy.
As an update of our progress on data collection, we have amended the table provided at the previous check-in that stratified compressions by rate, location, and depth. Compressions have been largely completed in chunks of 50 to 100 compressions per set, totaling at over 2,409 compressions gathered so far. The goal is to provide a solid baseline for testing the methods that will be incorporated in the application for appropriately measuring compression metrics. Methods on tracking compression count and rates of compression have been validated with the data gathered. As a review of how compressions are counted, we have filtered the magnitude data and then segmented the data at times where the magnitude went below 10. This way, the method can keep track if two magnitude peaks are on the same compression, and if so, only track the greater magnitude. In order to validate the compression count and rate methods, we sampled various sets of data stratifying the locations, depth, and rates of compression. As can be seen in this table, the methods utilized for tracking compression count and rate were accurate for the purposes of our application. The major goal here was to provide that rates below target, at target, and above target could be measured consistently across multiple household locations and at various depths.
Challenges in producing our application have been related to the practicality of measuring specific depths of compressions. Initially, we reached out to our regional American Heart Association and Red Cross organization, but this has not led to any responses yet. In order to accurately measure compression rate, we've been using a metronome to gauge how often a compression occurs. In order to overcome the issue of measuring depth, we have created a device that simulates compressions at specific depths. However, this has not come without challenges of its own. For instance, the shape of the plotted compression data obtained from the CPR device is inherently not the same as the compression data that is tracked on a mattress or a seat cushion. This is because of differences in the mechanics of the device and these household items. In addition, the acceleration versus time curve of these is also different from that of the compressions performed on a mannequin. However, keeping in mind our goal of simulating the field of chest compressions for training at home, data preprocessing has so far enabled us to eliminate most of the practical differences of our obtained data. As can be seen in the plots attached, a filter of 11 is adequate to remove most noise between the two datasets.
The next challenge is to create a method that tracks depth consistently across different rates. So far, the first attempt at creating such a method has been unsuccessful. The methodology of this first attempt was to obtain double integration, integrating from acceleration to velocity and then to displacement. This was done by estimating the area underneath the curve via the trapezoidal rule from designated start to stop points. The area chosen for this initial attempt was from trough to trough, as depicted by the blue area highlighted in the top graph. The top graph represents compressions at 110 compressions per minute at a 1-inch depth. The bottom graph represents compressions at 110 compressions per minute at 2-inch depth. As can be seen from the calculations on the left, we see that the calculated average depth of compression for both the 2 and 1-inch depth compressions were not significantly different. We would have expected the calculations to be more representative of the respective distances traveled. In order to troubleshoot this inconsistency, we will next attempt different start and stop points for compression measurement.
Our project plan moving forward includes the following. Complete Part 3 app creation phase of the project, which includes design of UI and producing the first draft of the app UI, which is discussed in the next few slides. Devising a plan to incorporate methods to track compression metrics in real time in the app utilizing sensor data. Complete Part 4 data and app validation phase of the project, which includes testing the application on appropriate household locations and surfaces using different rates and depths of compression. Updating the application backend and front end to meet our goals of allowing users to train CPR compressions at home. Finally, we'll wrap up the project by delivering our final demo and report. The UI and prototype of the app for Part 3 of our project begins with our group brainstorming, where we will produce 5 to 10 ideas each in a rapid sketch prototype style. Then a group brainstorming will go over these ideas together and produce additional ideas. 5 ideas from the first 2 phases will then be chosen for feasibility according to our project goals. An iterative process will begin with evaluation and design changes based on these goals.
Our goal is to have the initial idea chosen to move to the medium fidelity prototype phase, chosen by the 11th of March, which corresponds to our proposal's Gantt chart. The following week will be the creation of an interactive prototype, either by Wizard of Oz methods or through a computational prototype that is interacted with through the computer. Over the last 2 check-ins, we have received feedback on 4 points from our partner group. Our first feedback was incorporating gamification, which is something that we can definitely address in the brainstorming sessions we have outlined for the coming week. Integration with wearable devices is an interesting concept. However, our project's focus is limited to the phone and its sensors for greater accessibility purposes.
The next 2 points were more information on the 3D model, previous iterations of which can be shown off in future project updates. Tracking the user's compressions as our partner group suggested, and tracking compressions as part of our project's initial aim, which is the way we present that to the user in a feedback method that will depend on the outcome of our Phase 3 of the project. Our project has made significant strides in addressing challenges as well as validating compression tracking methods and accumulating a robust data set for testing. Moving forward, we are poised to advance through the app creation phase and ultimately deliver a comprehensive CPR training application for in-home use through the remaining phases of the project, taking into consideration our partner group's feedback as well as lessons learned along the way.